Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. My grandfather wasn't very nice to me growing up, but now that I've had a kid, he's a great grandfather. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at On the Underground, Paris and New York from LudiCreations.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
In On the Underground, Paris, New York from LudiCreations, 2 to 5 players will take turns trying to build tracks that then a passenger will use in order to score points and to win the game. Now, this, of course, is a follow-up to On the Underground London, Berlin. You've got a lot of the same mechanics, but it's a fairly simple game to learn. Depending on player count, you will take kind of a score tracker, which will indicate which colors are yours. You'll then take the corresponding track lines. Now, some of the track lines give you 20 tracks, some of them just give you 15. Now, the game has 2 sides. You have New York and you have Paris. Now, when you set up New York, essentially you put the game board out there, you draw 4 of the station cards, and then you put your markers in those station cards to denote exactly where the passenger will go. The passenger is going to start out in a central location, and then what you're going to do is on your turn, you have 4 actions. You can place a track for an action, or you can grab a branch token, which will let you branch off your train into different locations. Now, with New York, there are a few rules you have to follow. For instance, there are certain bridges. Now, if you want to build a track across the bridge, you have to lay down all of the sections that cross that bridge. So if there are 2 bridge sections, you can't just complete one bridge section. You have to complete the whole bridge section in one turn. Now, as you're completing these tracks, if you run into certain areas, you will score points. For instance, if you go into the blue spaces, you score 1 point. If you go into the red spaces, you score 2 points, and you can take a branch token. You also have clusters in New York. These are sections of the city that are high traffic, high density areas. And the first time you're going in there, it's not scoring you any points, but essentially for every subsequent cluster area on that track, you'll score an additional point. Now, once you've completed your turn, the passenger is going to move. Now, he's going to try to get to the closest station area that he can. He's going to go ahead and move toward the nearest one, but he doesn't like to walk. He likes to take the train, and he likes to take the fewest number of train lines there. So essentially, he's going to use the fewest number of lines, and whichever line he goes on is going to score 1 point for that player. Now, it doesn't matter how many spaces he moves along that line. If he uses the line, you just score 1 point. Now, after you've gone to the first location, the passenger will move again. He will move to the next location that is closest, and again, following those same rules. After he's moved to all of the locations, you're going to go ahead and discard those cards and draw 2 new cards and putting the markers on those 2 new locations. Then the next player goes. Now, some station locations in New York actually boast 2 cards, so it is possible to have 2 markers on the same location at a time, in which case only the first one is resolved. The second time he doesn't have to move, he's already there. With Paris, things are slightly different. At the beginning of the game, you're going to draw some secret objective cards. You're trying to connect 3 different spots with 1 track. So that's also an additional goal, but you keep that secret. Also, you're going to place a number of landmark tiles around the board at various locations. And every time you connect to one of these landmarks, you take one of those, you take that landmark and you put it in your player area. And then as soon as you've collected a set of all 5 of those tokens, you immediately score 7 points. Now, in the Paris game, the passenger will only move to one station before it is the next player's turn. So players are going around and around. They are creating the tracks. They are taking the branch tokens, which allow them to branch off into other directions. They are moving the passenger, and they are replenishing the cards. Players continue to do this until the location cards are exhausted, and each player has had the same number of turns. And as soon as that is over, then whoever has the most points wins. On the Underground, Paris, New York. Well, on the Underground, Paris and New York. So this is, of course, a new iteration of the London-Berlin version of the game. I believe that is a few years old now. I've just played them both recently, fairly recently. And they're very similar. They're very similar games. They have a few little bells and whistles that are different. Like I say, for instance, New York's got the clusters and the bridges. Paris has got the secret objectives, so there's some differences between the original game here. Now, I've only played this one two-player. I played both maps. I played them two-player. And I played this one with Kim because Kim loves New York. She goes to New York all the time. And she's always wanted to go to Paris. So anyway, she was excited to play this one. As I say, it's fun. It's a fun game. It's a quick game. It is an easy to learn, easy to teach game. Like I say, my original impression before I played the London Berlin is this is just kind of a variation on Ticket to Ride. It's a very different game. Now, obviously, you're still competing for tracks, and you can cut people off, and there's still those sorts of aspects. But in a lot of ways, it's very, very different. And I really found it to be quite a lot of fun, both versions. Having said that, I think the London Berlin edition, I like that better than Paris, New York. I thought the bells and whistles in Paris, New York that set it apart were okay. They were a fun and interesting challenge I might want to try once in a while. But I think just generally when I'm bringing people in to learn this game, I'll probably go with the London and Berlin set. I think that one just was a little more fun. Maybe I'm biased. I studied in Berlin. I lived in Berlin for a while, so I really like that city. I like London too. But I don't know. Just I preferred the London to Berlin maps and the stuff that came with that, the ideas that came with that. I'm probably going to keep both of these games, but honestly, there's enough space in each box that I can put both games into one game box. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'll probably just put it all in the London Berlin box. This is a good game, Paris to New York. I like it. I enjoy it. I don't know that you need both of them. And if I were going to say you needed to get one or the other, I'd say get London to Berlin. That's my preference. Some people might enjoy things they find here in Paris, New York. But having said all that, it's a good game, and I certainly recommend On the Underground. I think it's a fun system. I think these are fun games to play. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history, books on history, fun things like that. I even post some of my lectures on that channel. Please check that out. Please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Also, too, please leave a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. And if you really do enjoy the content we bring you, please, I would humbly ask you to click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. Ladies and gentlemen, the other day I ran into a cowboy, and he said he needed help rounding up his 47 cows. So I said 50.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
There is nothing more important than the people. Ah! Sean! Why?
You knew what I was when you asked me to review board games with you.
Do you want to go review a board game right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.